for this question, what we're looking at is where this function is in relation to 0, okay? So we're going to be looking at this equation, or this shape, this parabola, in different intervals. And we want to look at that interval, that specific section of our parabola, in relationship to 0. So if I were going to solve this problem, the first thing I would think about is this line right here. That's where my y value, or f of x, equals 0. Now, every question I'm going to be asked here is whether or not we're looking at where it's equal to 0, greater than 0, or less than 0. So everything up here is going to be where f of x is greater than 0. And I know that because that's where all my y numbers are positive. And if we're talking about everything that's down here, this is where f of x is less than 0. Now, I wrote that because that's going to help me figure out what symbols to put in these three spots right here. Okay, whether it's going to be a greater than symbol, a less than symbol, or an equal to symbol. So here's how I would look at this problem. Okay, what we want to know is this parabola, this red parabola, okay, which I just highlighted yellow. Is it greater than 0, less than 0, or equal to 0 in certain intervals? So the first interval we're going to look at is from -5 to -1. -5 is right here. Okay, -5 is right here. I'm actually going to pick a different color. We'll do it here. -5 is right there. -1 is right here. What this is saying is in between this section is this parabola, which is right here, greater than 0, less than 0, or equal to 0. Well, if I look at this part of my parabola, in between this -5 and -1, I can see that it's below that yellow line. Being below that yellow line means that it is less than 0. Because it's below the yellow line, it is less than 0. Okay, I'm going to clean this up a little bit because this will be easier to do if we look at it new each time. Okay, so again, we've got, we're looking at this line where f of x is 0. I want to know when x is less than -5. So now here's my -5, and I want to know everything less than -5. Okay, if this is where x equals -5, then everything on this side is where it's less than -5. So what that means is we're talking about just this part of my parabola, everything that's on the left of that green line. So this part of my parabola that I highlighted blue, if I look at that, is that going to be greater than 0, which is this yellow line, less than 0, or equal to it? Well, if I look at that blue section, I can see that it's above the yellow line, which means it's going to be greater than 0. All right, last one. And again, we're going to start over. Fresh graph, because I want us to have fresh eyes on this. This is where we equal 0. In this time, I'm looking at where x is greater than 0. So this is the line where x is greater than 0. So I'm looking at the parabola just where it's greater than 0. That's going to be this part. So again, looking at this purple section, is it greater than 0, equal to 0, or less than 0? Is it above that yellow line, below that yellow line, or exactly on the yellow line? And we can see that it's above that yellow line, which means this little section of my graph is greater than 0.